the Twin Cities Immigration Forum. This is a monthly meeting co-hosted by the City of Minneapolis's Immigrant and Refugee Affairs Office and the City of St. Paul's Immigrant and Refugee Program. This meeting was created to address topics of interest and concern to immigrants and refugee residents and individuals and organizations that serve immigrant and refugee communities. This monthly series originally started as a way to unpack federal immigration policies, programs, actions, and news. The forum has expanded beyond immigration updates to include discussions on a variety of topics, including topics touching Minnesota residents with community and government speakers and updates. So welcome everyone. I'm Edmundo Lijo. I am the Assistant City Attorney with the City of St. Paul, and I manage the Immigrant Refugee Affairs Program for the City of St. Paul. And before we start, why don't I give Michelle a second to introduce herself as well.
Thanks so much, Edmundo. Thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Michelle Rivero. I'm the Director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the City of Minneapolis. And again, welcome to November's Twin Cities Immigration Forum. I have put the agenda into the chat, and if folks are not seeing it, I will copy and put it in just one more time. And I'll turn it over to Edmundo to start us off with our agenda.
Sure. Before we start on the agenda, I'd just like to wish everyone who might be a veteran or may have children in the military a very happy Veterans Day. This weekend we celebrate Veterans Day. Anyone who's served in the military, either in this country or another, just want to thank you for your service and really wishing the families of people with family in the military well, and let them know we support them and really want to thank everyone for their service. So thank you very much. And now that we've kind of talked a little bit about Veterans Day, we'll move on to why don't we have everybody, if you could please just put your name and affiliation organization in the chat so we know who's here with us today. And I think we're going to jump right into our speakers right away because we do have a few speakers who need to jump off around 5 o'clock. So was Rachele King here? Maybe we'll start with Rachele.
Hi,
Rachele.
Hi, thanks
Welcome.
for welcoming me here. And I apologize that I am in my car. So why my camera is off and I can't put my information in the chat. So my name is Rachele King. I'm with the Resettlement Programs Office at the Department of Human Services. And so I'm glad to be here today to provide a few updates from Department of Human Services and from the state of Minnesota. So I haven't been to this meeting for a little bit, but I think maybe in the last time I was talked about some historic legislation that was passed in the last legislative session, which provided some new resources, some sort of first ever resources in our state to support legal immigration services and social services to support people who to apply for or maintain work authorization and social services while they're doing that. So what that meant is that was passed as of this July, and because there was no other service area in the state of Minnesota that was doing it at that time, those supports were added to the Resettlement Programs Office. So we were really excited about that, because prior to that time, all of the funding of the Resettlement Programs Office at the Department of Human Services had been federal funding, which really limited who we were able to offer services to. And so now we're able to implement this program and expand the scope of our work. So I wanted to provide some updates on where we're at with that service expansion and those investments right now. So some of what it meant is that, again, because it's a new service area for the state, really expanding our staffing capacity. So you will find right now, there is a manager position, a 3-year temporary manager position that is posted live right now. I'll make sure that that information can go out in any notes from here. But if you're on in LinkedIn and you go to my site, Rachele King, you'll see that the link to that position is posted there as well. That is going to be a really key leadership position within our office for the implementation of these state funds. And the definition of who's eligible for those state funds are people who are born outside of the United States and their children, right? So a really expansive definition that the legislature established for use of those funds. So that is really exciting. We already had posted a immigration legal support position for that as well, knowing that there is really important intersections between legal or people's immigration status and what they're eligible to access at the state level. And so that position, we actually have a pool of great applicants. We're going to be starting interviewing for that position as well, so that we can really roll out what is some of the service parts of that. So a really exciting update to provide everyone related to that is that so the immigration legal services that these state dollars will fund are twofold. So we're going to be investing about $7 million over the next 4 years. So it's one-time funding that was 4 years, and we're halfway into year one, so it'll be 3.5 years to really focus on the legal services. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is really create some like system change, some really like innovative approaches to ensuring that people can easily access some like intake assessment of what their legal pathways may be towards work authorization, as well as some education. I know some of the things that have been brought up on this call and other calls are really that need to get people information about their status, what next steps they need to take. And some of these first investments are really going to be about addressing that, so that we can have some mobile responses that can go to where people are to provide some really real-time advice, legal advice related to status and immigration legal services. And then the second part of that will be investing in those legal services, right? Making sure that when people are assessed with what they need, providing some more resources to support legal representation for what people need to make progress towards work authorization. So this is super exciting. Again, first time the state of Minnesota has done this. So we're thrilled to be able to do that. And because what we heard from legal service providers is that it would take like $36 million to like meet the needs in our community, there's going to be prioritization. So I want to level set that as well. Like, this is a great step forward, but it's not going to meet all of the needs of all of the people for legal services. But so we're really excited about that to be able to to offer some expansion of those services through state dollars. And then the second update that I wanted to share is that like many of you on this call, I know we're seeing and hearing from different people around the community about migrants coming to Minnesota, seeking shelter, and impact on shelter systems. So one of the things that I wanted to share is at the state level, are mobilizing a task force across state agencies to be able to really, and our office will be a part of that, to staff making sure that across state systems there's a situational awareness of what is happening, and also that there is a way for to filter information back to communities who are like really on the front lines in the midst of helping people meet their basic needs here in Minnesota. And so in doing that, we're really excited to be able to, or really glad to be able to sort of synthesize that information in ways to make sure that it gets to the right people and help connect the dots. And in doing so, really want to lean into the local efforts that are already underway. And not so also really excited that Michelle and Edmundo, as part of Welcoming Twin Cities calls that they're part of, that will be able to play a more formal role in that, in being at those calls and really being able to be a conduit for information and helping connect the dots of resources that are available and concerns that exist. So I think that is a really great step forward in things that are happening at the state level. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of those things that are happening, and that you're going to be seeing folks from the state and our office participating in those meetings moving forward. So I will pause there for any questions.
Oh, Edmundo, you're muted.
I was just saying, thanks, Rachele. We really appreciate you coming on, and for the state is going to be joining our bi-weekly Welcome Twin Cities meeting to talk about the needs of newcomers and to help us coordinate some of those efforts. We're very excited about that opportunity. And any questions for Rachele? I do have.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, question?
Yes, I have a question. I think it might be not related to Rachele, but if she has any good answer for that. Some of the families, their employment authorization card has already been expired, but they haven't received the renewal. So they are thinking about the driving license. So according to the new law, if they are resident in Minnesota, they can go to apply to have the driving license. So what is the best way they can renew their only driving license to have a valid license to drive?
You are right that I am not an expert on that, but if we can connect offline, there's somebody in my office that's going to know the answer to that question. It's just not me. So Mohammed, I can loop back with you about that.
Thank you.
One additional thing that I can share too, with regard to driver and vehicle services, is we've been very fortunate that DVS has participated in the citizenship and immigration fairs that have been co-hosted by the City of Minneapolis and City of St. Paul. There will be another one on November 18th at the Rondo Library in St. Paul, and DVS representatives will be there in person. We'll be giving a presentation and will also be available to answer people's questions. So that is another, in-person space where people can have their questions answered regarding obtaining a driver's license under Driver's License for All, which, can obtain a driver's license regardless of immigration status. We'll also put in the chat, that was an additional update, information about driver and vehicle services, their webpage, so people can check and see what other spaces DVS will be present.
Yes,
I mean, it's not every day that there's some.
Oh, someone on needs to mute. Can please mute if you're. Thank you. Rachele, just real quickly again, could you just again highlight what positions are available and that you're currently looking for people to fill?
Yeah, so the position that is currently posted right now is a manager position. It's a 3-year temporary position to manage the implementation of these state dollars that we got. So that position is currently vacant and open. I can tell you there will be some others that are going to be coming down the road. So I'll make sure that on these meetings that people, that's the only one that's posted at this moment. The others were further down. We're further into the hiring process for those. They're not open, but there will be more in the future, and I'll make sure that it gets out through these groups.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. And unless there's any other questions, we can let you get to your other meeting.
All right. Thanks. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rachele. Take care. I think next we're going to go to, is it Sherlonda? Is she here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting just yet, my name is Sherlonda Clark, and I am the Director of the Civil Rights, Equity, and Engagement Division. I'm here specifically to speak with this group about an upcoming event that we're having. It's actually this Monday, November 13th. How is it already the middle of the month? But that's a different story. Monday the 13th, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at URock. And that event is, we're calling it a Civil Rights Pop-In Day for the community. So it is open for any Minneapolis residents who may have issues regarding their civil rights anywhere from, and they will be able to report any incidents of bias, any incidents that they may have had with the police, any concerning things around their wages. And the focus of the event is actually what we call our source of income event. And this is a new initiative. It actually passed in 2018 and then was tied up in lawsuits for the last 5 years. But essentially, it prohibits landlords from having things like no Section 8 in the process. So it gives renters an opportunity to let us know if they are Section 8 voucher holders and they are having a hard time getting accepted, or anything with renting or folks turning them down. It's just an opportunity for us to educate them about what their rights are and what we can do to follow up. We will also are happy to talk to property owners and landlords about what this ordinance is all about. But that event is coming up. Michelle we have several flyers, which if you could email that out to the group, I would greatly appreciate it.
Happy to do so.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Anytime. Come back.
Yep. And then if there, Sherlonda, I know you have another engagement too, but if there are any questions for Sherlonda, I just think it's wonderful. I really appreciate your joining us from the Civil Rights Department. If people may want to reach out to you directly, I don't know if
Yes.
you've had the opportunity to put your contact information in the chat,
I
but
will
if you
do that
wouldn't
now.
mind just putting your name and title and contact information, so people may be able to pull that information and connect with you offline. I know this is the second engagement opportunity. It's one in a series from what I'm understanding. And so if people maybe aren't able to attend this one, but may want to attend a future one, I'm sure that they would love to be connected with you to learn more, particularly for community members that may not yet have had a connection with the Minneapolis Civil Rights Department, but may want to learn more about the work that the Civil Rights Department does that impacts residents.
And it is in there.
Perfect.
Happy to connect.
Great. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, thanks. Michelle, I think Guthrie is up next. Is he here?
I sent Guthrie a quick text, and I'm not sure if he has been able to jump on. So...
I am here.
Oh,
Oh,
yay,
wonderful.
wonderful.
Welcome. You're next.
All right. Well, so I'm Guthrie Byard. I am the city's community specialist for people with disabilities. I work alongside Michelle within the neighborhood and community relations department. Been with the city for about 2.5 months, almost 3 months now. So it's a new position for the city. My predecessor, Nick No, is the deputy director of the department now, and he was the ADA and language access coordinator. And so we've split those two roles up. So I'm a full-time, essentially ADA coordinator, if you will, for the city. And also then we're hiring separately for a language access coordinator to be a full-time staff member in those areas. And so in kind of leading up to this meeting, Michelle and I were talking just a bit about the kind of the intersection of immigration and disability, and wanting just to express myself as a resource for folks here on the call and for those that you are working with and the agencies that you are collaborating with, to be a resource for you all when it comes to issues around not just the ADA, but physical and digital accessibility, and any other areas within kind of that intersection of immigration and disability that I could be of support with, project-based or otherwise. So Michelle, I don't know if you wanted me to share any more. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions or just put my contact information in the chat for those who want to follow up afterwards.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Guthrie, for hopping on. If you could put your contact information in the chat, that would be wonderful. And in the meantime, if folks may have questions for Guthrie, I'm very grateful that you are a fellow employee in our department and employee of the city of Minneapolis. I think it's wonderful that the city has dedicated a full-time position to this role. And so if folks have questions now. Invite you to ask any preliminary questions that you have, but also encourage you all to reach out to Guthrie in the future as relates to people with disabilities and work that the city is doing in terms of engagement and collaboration, support, and more. So if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or ask right now. Otherwise, I invite people to reach out to Guthrie offline.
Hello, this is Howard Dotson.
Hello, Howard.
Hi. I just wanted to thank the city for the proclamation about the disabilities that are invisible. And if he could speak to that proclamation that happened recently.
Yes, so this is Guthrie. Yeah, that was brought to my attention. Actually, it was something that was in the works prior to me joining, and it was a collaboration with the council president, Andrea Jenkins, who has MS and identifies as having an invisible disability, and a couple of policy aides, namely Andrew Johnson's policy aide, or one of them, who also identifies as having an invisible disability. And so it was a nice collaboration between a couple of council members and their staff. And I was brought in shortly after starting to review the language and to tailor it a little bit more to the city and to the state. And really, the idea was that, you know, we want this to be kind of a start for acknowledging other disabilities, and more broadly than that, acknowledging other communities and aspects of the work that within NCR the community specialists do. So whether it's a resolution like this or a proclamation, you know, October was National Disability Employment Awareness Month, things like that, where we can highlight some of the work that has happened, but also, you know, be honest and open and talk about the work that needs to happen, I think is really important. And so obviously resolutions and proclamations don't change much in individuals' day-to-day life, but it's an acknowledgement that certain folks exist, certain historical you know, oppressions have existed around these areas, and that calling it out and drawing attention to what the city is doing is really important. So thanks for bringing that forward too.
Wonderful. Other questions or comments relating to what Guthrie has shared before we move on to the next agenda item?
Yeah, so my name is Mavi. Hello. Thank you for sharing the information. Where can we find the job description?
Where can you find my job description? This is Guthrie.
Yeah, they mentioned.
I mean, if you connect with me, I can share with you offline. I mean, my job description isn't listed per se on our website.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. But if you look up the city of Minneapolis, we have a couple of different accessibility pages, and it talks about some of the work that my office and my role does, and it provides my contact information. So you get a sense as to what I do, but I'm certainly happy to connect with you and just do more of a full rundown of the things that I am tasked to do and the things that I'm interested in, some of the projects that I have ahead of me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions that people may have before we move to the next subject? All right, everybody. Well, thank you again, Guthrie. Really appreciate that you're able to hop on. And our next topic is driver's licenses for all. Just wanted to give a couple of quick updates here. First, it has come to our attention that the Ecuadorian consulate which is in Minneapolis, hosts a resource fair on Mondays, and driver and vehicle services actually is present every Monday, and will be through December. So I believe from 8 or 8:30 to 12, That's also on the Driver and Vehicle Services Driver's License for All webpage, which I will put in the chat here in one moment. So, for individuals who may be from Ecuador, who are arriving, like knowing that resource fair also has staff from Driver and Vehicle Services every Monday through December is a helpful piece of information. And I'm also, as I said, putting the Driver and Vehicle Services webpage in the chats because that is regularly updated with additional events and resources for folks who may want to obtain a driver's license under Driver's License for All, regardless of a person's immigration status. Also want to repeat that at the November Citizenship and Immigration Fair that's co-hosted by the City of St. Paul and City of Minneapolis. They'll be at Rondo Library on Saturday, November 18th from 2 to 4 p.m. Driver and Vehicle Services representatives will also be present. We'll give a brief presentation and we'll also answer questions. And there'll be interpreters in multiple languages at that event on November 18th. That's co-hosted by Cities of St. Paul and City of Minneapolis. And with that, Edmundo, maybe I'll turn it to you for the calendar of events and inviting people to share community updates, and then we can talk a little bit about some city updates.
Sure. First, I'd like to mention that on Friday, November 17th, the James H. Binger Center for New Americans, which is part of the University of Minnesota Law School, will be hosting their 2023 Fall Immigration Forum entitled Deconstructing Our Past and Building Our Narrative for the Future. It is an all-day forum for which 6 credits of continuing legal education will be given for people for attorneys that attend and need CLE credit, but topics are will be covering our issues dealing with new Americans arriving, how immigration law has developed in the past and where it's headed into the future, and how we may be able to bring resources to bear on some of the challenges that we face and will be facing in the future as climate change and civil unrest and war continue to disrupt people all over the world and displace them. So if you're interested, we will place a link in the chat for people who might be interested in registering for this all-day forum. Again, then next on the 18th, as Michelle mentioned, we'll be hosting our monthly immigration and naturalization fair, and we have several speakers in addition to Driver's License for All. We'll also have representatives from the Minnesota Attorney General's office there to talk about workers' rights. We'll have legal service providers available, as well as service providers who provide English language class education, some financial information, as well as Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union to provide information around our New American Loan Program that is now available in both Minneapolis and St. Paul. Michelle, I don't know if we have any other updates that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I'll just run through a few quick. So there are a couple of coat drives. Alight is doing a winter wear drive for families who are in Hennepin County, and there's a link I'll share in a second. Also, Camden Collective is hosting a winter coat event on December 9th. You can check out the Facebook page for Camden Collective, December 9th at 4150 DuPont Avenue North. And those are a couple of coat drives that are happening. In addition, I wanted to share some city updates. In addition to what Sherlonda shared regarding the Civil Rights Department outreach, also invite folks to save the date for the 2024 Community Connections Conference, which is Saturday, February 24th. This is the largest city event connecting city to community and community to city. It's an annual free event that connects residents of Minneapolis, community groups, neighborhood organizations, and local governments. More information is at the link that I'm just dropping in the chat right now. If you're interested in signing up, as I said, registration is open. If you may be interested in volunteering, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to share more information about that. Another subject is the budget. Elected officials are currently working through the budget that was proposed by Mayor Fry. It's recommended 2024 city budget and identifying suggestions and additional priorities for the 2024 city budget. Anyone who is interested in sharing their input can submit a comment online. There is also one remaining public hearing that is scheduled for December. There are videos on the city's budget process. I believe those are in multiple languages. So really invite people to take a moment, if you have not yet done so, to learn about the budget process and to please share your opinion. It's one of the most important things that the City Council does, allocation of funding. And so worthwhile, and there are many ways to learn more about the budget process in the city. And the last update that I would like to share is in response to increasing numbers of folks arriving in the Twin Cities area, OIRA has established office hours on Lake Street at the Career Force Center at 777 East Lake Street. Office hours alternate between Mondays and Wednesdays and are running through December. Upcoming dates are November 13th, that's a Monday, from 1 to 4, November 27th, also a Monday from 1 to 4, and December 6th, that's a Wednesday, from 2 to 5. The calendar of office hours is also available on the OIRA events date page and will continue to be updated through the end of the year. Information provided includes general information on a variety of topics, including housing, employment, access to legal resources, shelter support, healthcare access, and more. So please feel free to encourage folks to attend OIRA's office hours. And now, if there are updates that folks may want to share who are in the meeting, please do feel free to raise your hand, put your update in the chat, or just shout it out. We love to make time for folks to share events and other updates that they'd like to share on things that are happening in community.
This is Howard Dotson. I presented several months ago about the Syrian refugees.
Yes, Howard,
And
thank
I
you.
wanted to share an update that Senator Menendez is no longer the chair of Senate Foreign Relations. It's Senator Cardin out of Maryland. And I've been working to get a hearing regarding restorative justice for the Muslim refugees that were victims of the Trump Muslim ban for 4 years. And we're lining up testimonials. So if anyone's aware of a Muslim immigrant that was impacted by that ban, I can be reached at 763-600-9078.
$9078. Is that correct?
Correct.
763-600-9078. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Howard. And we'll put this in the notes as well. Really appreciate it. Other thoughts, other comments, updates, events that are taking place that you'd like to share with community and the group on the call?
Ozia from CAP US.
Go ahead.
Should I go ahead? Okay,
Yeah.
Please.
So we're having our women's group starting soon by November 28th. This is just to help Afghan women. This is specifically for Afghan women, trying to help them eliminate barriers for them so they can enter the workforce. It's going to start on November 28th, and it's going to be at CAPI IOC at Brooklyn Center. I'll post a poster right in the chat so you all can have it. But I mean, if you are aware of any Afghan woman who is willing to enter the workforce and they have barriers like English language and others, please refer them to CAPI, where there we can have them in the program.
Wonderful. And do you have a date when the program is starting? November 28th. I see
Yeah.
that. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. And it's at your Brooklyn Center location where
Yep.
meetings will be held. Is that correct?
Yes,
Great.
and it has a QR code where people can enroll themselves, I believe, online. And it has a phone number there as well, which is our refugee services phone number on the flyer.
Thank you so much, Razi. I appreciate it. Other updates? I heard someone else who was about to start talking. Is it Mahmoud?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Mahmoud Ahmed with the Binger Center for New Americans here. My camera's a little too high. Hi, guys. The Binger Center has its 10th anniversary Immigration Annual Forum this upcoming Friday. I'm going to send a link and some details for that in the chat as well. That is in there now. It's going to be a variety of sessions and panels discussing updates in policy, some technical immigration law aspects, but also just some community discussions and space for open dialogue. So please RSVP in the next 24 hours, and we are hoping to see many folks there.
Wonderful. And people heard it twice because I think we weren't sure if you were on. And so we did share that too. So thank you and appreciate that you hopped on to share. You heard it from the source, and hope people will participate in that forum, in that all-day event. It sounds awesome, and both Edmundo and I are very grateful to be able to participate in that event. So super. Awesome.
As
And
well
I
as
see
many
that-
people
Go ahead,
who join
Edmundo.
it. I was going to say, as well as many others who often visit this forum. So there'll be
That's true.
there'll be a lot of us on the
So yeah,
presenting that day.
Thank you guys for joining and for the plug. Appreciate that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Good to see you.
Okay, other updates before we move on. The next subject is immigration updates, and I can cover that as well briefly and then turn it back to Edmundo. But are there any other community updates that folks would like to share? Any new developments, new positions, etc., that you'd like to talk about before we switch over? If I hear silence, then I'm just going to move to immigration updates. All right, everyone. So I'll just share a couple of updates here. You know, in this space, we try to provide information about developments at the federal level, and also provide information about subjects that people are asking questions about. One topic relates to parole and kind of understanding a little bit more about what parole options are available for folks, including new developments regarding parole. So just wanted to share a couple of updates relating to Guatemalans and Nicaraguans. So a little earlier this year, the federal government issued a regulation relating to Guatemalans who have a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident parent or spouse in the United States and who have an I-130, that's an immigrant visa petition, approved for them. There is a process by which those individuals who have an I-130 approved by a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident parent or spouse may be able to enter the United States based upon parole. Based on the Federal Register notice on this program, it's by invitation only. So at least the way that the notice reads, and I'm putting it in the chat, it appears that the U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident would receive an invitation to submit a parole application on behalf of their relative who has the approved I-130. So I'm putting this information in the chat right now so that people can take a moment to, well, more than a moment to read it if you like. There have been a lot of questions about parole for Ecuadorians, and in October and mid-October, the federal government announced that there would be a parole pathway for Ecuadorians who are the family members of U.S. citizens or permanent residents. And I will share the news release on the USCIS webpage. Again, as for Guatemalans, it appears that a person must have an approved immigrant visa petition, an approved I-130 from a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident, spouse, or parent before being able to take advantage of this opportunity. So in that way, it's a little different from other parole pathways, which are not dependent on someone having an approved petition or having a relationship with a U.S. citizen or a U.S. permanent resident. So I invite folks to learn a bit more about these parole pathways, but also like wanting people to understand that this isn't an immediate pathway for individuals to enter the United States, and that there are certain criteria, namely the criteria of having a U.S. citizen or a U.S. permanent resident, spouse, or parent. I also want to share with regard to temporary protected status. It's another topic where we are seeing a lot of news, whether it is a re-registration period or a redesignation. The website, the USCIS website for temporary protected status, does provide a good bit of information. In addition to that, there is also a YouTube page for USCIS where people can watch videos. For Venezuelan TPS, there's actually a video in Spanish that provides some orientation regarding the TPS application process. So you can type in YouTube USCIS videos and see information regarding temporary protected status for Venezuela and a variety of other topics as well, and can forward that within your networks to individuals who may be interested in learning more. Also just want to share, and this is kind of reiterating information, the parole process, the temporary parole process for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. It's a pathway for approximately 30,000 people per month who can be paroled into the United States. Does offer the opportunity to apply for employment authorization. There's a USCIS webpage that provides more details about that as well. A person needs to have a sponsor in the United States, undergo security checks, meet other eligibility criteria, and warrant a favorable exercise of discretion. So this is a little bit more of a refresher because it's not brand new. But again, there's a USCIS webpage that goes through the requirements in order for one to qualify for parole under CNHV parole. And again, a distinction between that and Ecuador and Guatemala, in that for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, you do not need to have a U.S. citizen or a U.S. permanent resident petitioner, and you don't need to have an approved I-130. So I will pause there. If there are questions, or Edmundo, if there are things that you think are front and center that we should talk about that I've missed, please do include them. Just kind of wanted to give a high-level overview.
I think the parole updates were really the most important development the last month or so.
Okay. Go ahead. Other thoughts that people want to share on this topic, or other questions? I am going to put an advocacy letter signed by a number of organizations, including some based here in Minnesota, to President Biden, urging the safeguard of asylum protections. Thank you very much. Someone sent that to me just today, so including that, so you have an opportunity to check it out. Any other updates on the immigration front that people feel are important to talk about? And it was Jane, thank you, Jane Stockman, for forwarding that so that we could include it today. Much appreciated. All right, Edmundo, I think we can, oh, go ahead, Naweed, please.
Thank you, Michelle. I just want to announce because I have started a new position and it's relevant to the new comer, and especially new American as Afghan evacuee or Afghan community. And I started a new role, a new position with Minnesota Department of Education as a new American Education Program Specialist, and I will work directly with MDE to engage with newcomer, especially the Afghan community, and we are working collaboratively with DHS to provide support and assistance to the Afghan community and family engagement in order to for a student to reach to the success and academic performances. And I'm just started my job newly, and I'm looking forward to provide support. So if you see any issue or any problem at the community, you can send on my way, and I can connect to the relevant department and relevant resources. And I'm looking forward to provide the support to the community.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
So much,
Thank you.
Naweed. Really appreciate that you shared your work. If you wouldn't mind putting your contact information in the chat so that people can reach out.
Sure.
If they'd like to connect with you directly, that would be super helpful. I see
Naweed.
Mohammed.
Naweed,
sorry,
congratulations and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Edmundo. Thank you.
Yeah, congrats. So, Mohammed Tayyab, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to say congratulations to Rai and Naweed for this new role, and I hope we will work together. Thank you so much for sharing your information and new role. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Edmundo, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you. Michelle, I think we did post the job opportunities that Rachele King had mentioned in the chat. If not, we will include them in our notes so that people can review those job opportunities with the state of Minnesota and apply if so interested. Also, we will place in the chat the links to the job opportunities both with the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul. There are several open positions at both cities. I know within my own office, the city attorney's office, we have several open attorney positions. So if people are interested in working with the cities of Minneapolis or St. Paul, please do visit our website and see the opportunities that are available. With that, if anyone else has or wants to announce a job opening and share it with the group, we'll give people a minute or two to do that. So if not, we can go on to extra credit reading. It's a little something that Michelle and I started a few months ago where we put some additional reading sources in our meeting notes about things that we think people might find of interest. Today, what I'm going to post is actually a story that was in the New York Times this past weekend about Colombians who are leaving Colombia to fight in the Ukraine for the Ukrainian army. I thought this was a story, a very sad story, but a very interesting story in that we work with a lot of Colombians here in the Twin Cities who are migrating to Minnesota, as well as Ukrainians, and the difficulties that Colombians face in their home country. Feeling there are no other opportunities, they have taken the skills they have they have learned through fighting with the Colombian army to go and fight in the Ukraine. So I thought people might find that story interesting, given that we work quite a bit with both communities. And I know, Michelle, you had a book you wanted to share, and I'm not seeing that title.
Yep. So it's called Poverty by America, and it was written by Matthew Desmond, and it addresses root causes of poverty, and also very interestingly highlights some local examples of work that people have done together to improve their lot in life. And one of the organizations that was referenced was Inquilines Unidos por la Justicia. And I am hearing some, if people could mute, I love the baby sound. But if you wouldn't mind muting, that would be super. So anyway, if folks may want to take a look at this book, I found it to be a fascinating read, and also the fact that there was an organization that is pretty well known here in Minneapolis, Inquilines Unidos, and the work that they've done made it interesting for that reason as well, very inspirational. And then the last thing I want to share is the Migration Policy Institute has done a recent webinar entitled Migration, Disaster, and Climate Change in Eastern Africa, which is focused on the nexus between climate change, natural disaster, and migration in the Intergovernmental Authority on Development region in Eastern Africa. So if folks are interested, feel free to check out this webinar. So it's a little bit of extra credit in case you're looking for something to do over Veterans Day weekend. So thank you very much, and back to you, Edmundo.
Yep. Well, with that, we can, I think, unless anyone else has something they'd like to announce or talk about, we're going to finish up a little early today. I do want to also wish you everyone again a happy Veterans Day, and our next forum will be December 14th at 4:30 p.m. And we'll be sending out the agenda and links to that meeting later at the end of this month. And Michelle, anything else you want to add? And if not, we can say goodnight.
That's it. Thank you, everybody. Please keep in touch, and look forward to seeing you again in other spaces. Thanks for making time for this meeting today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Manu. Have a good night.
Yep, good night.
Care.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you.